Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Friday, September 19, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. You know, conservatives, Charlie Kirk is one of those folks, love talking about crime, black on black crime, inner city crime. Oh, it's the highest in the country. Michael Harriot says that's bullshit. We'll talk to him about that on the show. What the hell were Democrats thinking, including Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, voting for a resolution praising Charlie Kirk the Republicans put up? 4 CBC members voted yes. I'm going to name all 4 on today's show. Progressive Ezra Klein sat down with right-wing ideologue Ben Shapiro, and they talked about Obama, race, and why the Republicans were so against Obama. I don't know what the hell Klein was talking about, and I damn sure know what the hell Ben Shapiro was talking about, but y'all know I got something to say about that. Also, Houston Tillerson College at HBCU in Austin, Texas gets a $150 million donation. I will have the president right here on the show. Lots more we're going to talk about, so let's go. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Donald Trump can't stand black people, especially black people who lead cities in this country. He's always ragging on Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson, Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass, Brandon Scott in Baltimore, Memphis, Paul Young. We can go on and on and on. It's amazing how he never brings up cities run by white mayors where they have crime. But they always are pushing this idea that these large Democrat-run cities are just hotbeds of crime, and that there's no crime like in these cities, unlike any other. Yet Michael Harriot, the editor and founder of ContrabandCamp.com, said, that's bullshit. He joins us right now. Michael, glad to have you back on the show. So, what did you go through? So what were you, because we see this, and matter of fact, you know, Charlie Kirk, boy, he made a living off of this, going on college campuses, going on Jubilee, everywhere else, just running off and reciting all of these facts about black on black crime in these Democratic cities and how it's so awful, so bad, it's so terrible. And Donald Trump's runs with that. Democrats were on Capitol Hill this week grilling the mayor of Washington, D.C., and others saying the exact same thing. But you found something different.
Yeah, so I actually started this, not in response to Charlie Kirk, because I don't think, like, this took so long that it couldn't have been done that quickly. I started this before, just to, you know, you've heard that rhetoric. And so I started looking into it, into the stats. Again, I always have to remind people that, like, you know, my career started as an economist, as that's what I taught in colleges across the country. And so what we found was that, first of all, one of the reasons we need to be teaching people civics lesson is that really there is no such thing as Democrat-run cities, right? Like, cities don't make the law that govern crime, right? Cities don't control the law. Even in large cities like New York, the state legislatures write the crime, the government write the laws. The state legislatures fund policing efforts. They fund the police academy in the states. So, like, mayors and city councils have very little to do with crime. If anything, they hire the police officers. And, you know, I always give my spiel here. Police officers do not prevent crime. They enforce the law that's already written. So the thing is that even in these so-called Democrat-controlled cities where crime is high, They're usually in red states. 16 of the cities with the highest crime rates are in Republican or red states. And, 4 of them are kind of in Republican red states, but the legislature is split. They have a Republican governor. One branch of the House, of the legislature is Republican controlled, but they might have another branch that has a slight Democratic majority. But only 4 of the worst, most violent cities are in, blue states. And the other thing we should know is when they always bring up Chicago, when it comes to violent crime, Chicago is 121st on the list. But because it's the 3rd largest city in America, they love to pull out those statistics. So, a combination of learning civics and actually knowing math is how you find out that most crime occurs in red states. And like most of the crimes are in majority white, Republican controlled cities. Yeah, you broke up for a second.
Yeah, what are you basing the data on? So when you're talking about what are you basing that on?
So I use 2 specific databases, right? So one, I use the same database that they like to cite when they talk about Black people being so violent, the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Database. Now, instead of using the one about arrest, because we know how flawed arrest can be, that's just determined by who police arrest. The FBI also has a database on reported crime. So all of the crime that's reported, whether it's solved or not, whether they arrest someone or not, I use that database. And the other database that I use, aside from the census, is the American Council of State Legislatures account of, they do a monthly report on who controls each state's legislature and governorship. So those are that's the data I use, government data.
So what's amazing to me is this wasn't hard for you to find. Why is it so hard for Democrats not to put out their own list of top 10 deadliest cities and show their red?
One, I don't know why. And the other thing is, if you've ever, passed by MSNBC and, sadly caught Joe Scarborough talking about Black on Black crime in DC. Because one city is deadly, like people know what they experience. So a lot of people feel like if you talk about where the crime actually occurs, you're dismissing the people, because everybody is concerned about crime in their city. And, there's years of Gallup research that shows that most people, whether they're Black or white, wherever they live, they feel like crime is getting worse. And it's not true. Like crime has been on the decline since the 1990s. But I think that's partly why, and partly because, the Democrats use white advisors and PR firms that advise them against it. You and I have seen Democratic firms like Blue Rose Research tell them, hey, don't talk about DEI, don't, because it doesn't poll well. Don't talk about the crime or Trump sending troops to Washington, D.C. because it doesn't poll well. So that they keep chasing these so-called moderate white voters who never somehow show up in the ballot box, right, or in the voting booth. And that's partly why, right? Because the Democratic Party is still a white-controlled party who believes a lot of the nonsense like crime is in Democrat-controlled majority Black cities.
Yeah, and also because it's been told so many times, folks just go, it just got to be true.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it too. Like these white supremacist narratives have been repeated so much that they become truth, right? And so we know that that's not true. Like when you look at, they always cite the arrest statistics. Well, we know like police only arrest about 2% of people who are responsible for crime. So you're telling me that police who they arrest, like these dudes who train for 6 weeks, are given a gun and a badge and sent out on the streets, they are the most effective determinants of who is committing the crime. And what we find is that crime occurs where police control because they determine who they arrest. And we say, well, that's a high crime area because they target Black people. But in reality, if you look at where crime is reported, it's not specifically where Black people live. It's usually in places with stuff like lax gun laws, low education, people who don't have, places with high unemployment rates. And those places just happen to be in red states.
So how do we change this narrative? I mean, and so is it just constantly, just lighten up the folks like Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe? How do we change it? Because that is the narrative.
Right. Like doing what you do, right? Like you light them up, and you have to write, and you don't just light them up and say you're stupid or that's racist. You light them up by saying what you're saying is not true. What you're saying is false. Now, if you can prove to me that crime is worse in this Democrat-controlled city, right? I always ask people, like, give me your zip code and I'm gonna see how the crime is in your city, right? And when they find out that, oh, the crime rate is just as high wherever these white people live, then they change their tune, right? But the other way we can do it is, I believe in the, trusting journalists, right? I believe in the theory of, there's this concept called the necessary of existence, right? Like when people like you do shows like this and say, hey, that thing that you always believe, it's not true. This will be on the internet forever. This article will be on the internet forever, right? And so whenever somebody else decides to look up, is it true? They're going to go, this is going to come up in their Google search. That article is going to come up in their Google search, and then they can know the facts. And that's why it's important to trust journalists. And there's a difference between journalists and content creators and just people who say things like Joe Scarborough.
Absolutely. Well, great breakdown. Folks, go to contrabandcamp.com, contrabandcamp.com, to check out Michael's story. You see it says right there, are Democrat-controlled Black cities more violent? Here's what the data says. And also, folks, do us a favor, support independent Black-owned media. Subscribe to contrabandcamp.com. And trust me, we need more of that, because this is what we're facing. We're facing right wing who is controlling so much of media. You got folk who just lie blatantly on television, on digital, on social, and very few folks want to correct them. And I'm a firm believer. The data is the data, so don't try to sit here and say one thing is the truth when it's really not. Michael, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
My panel, Matt Manning, civil rights attorney at Corpus Christi, Michael Imhotep, host African History Network show out of Detroit. Joining me right now in studio, Rob Portillo, civil rights attorney. He also works in the office of Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Glad to have all three of you here. I'm going to start with you, Robert. I mean, well, Michael laid it out. I mean, it's the BS that we constantly see, the BS we constantly see, the BS that we constantly see, and it's just stupid. And so facts are facts. And so it's important to combat the facts.
Yeah, I think we also have to stop letting other people define what exactly crime is. I think we have to stop allowing folks to tell us what statistics they're going to use. Because when we talk about high crime areas, I would argue the two highest crime areas in America right now are Wall Street and Capitol Hill. But we don't want to count that as being crime. If Wall Street steals $70 billion, like in the Enron scandal, somehow that's not considered a high crime area. If we're watching our military kill 30 random Venezuelans with absolutely no justification claiming they're narco-terrorists, that doesn't count as violent crime. So when we talk about framing these subjects, we are really talking about poverty. Because when we talk about high crime areas, we're talking about high poverty areas. The number one determining factor after 15 years in court defending people that I can tell you is the one determining factor is your zip code and your income when it comes to crime. And if we worked on dealing with housing, dealing with education, dealing with the price of food, dealing with universal health care, those crime numbers go down a whole lot more than mass incarcerations and putting troops in the streets.
But they don't want to deal with those fundamental issues, Matt. And it's always, hey, lock them up, throw away the key. That's how you solve it. And we know what that really is about. That is a short-term high that makes people say, look at them, they're just something about crime, when no, that's not actually what is going to drive crime down.
No, so it's about lock them up and throw away the key for the other people and not me. Like I've said on this show, people used to sit in my office when I was a prosecutor, and the same people I would see on social media saying the DA's office is too weak would be the ones who were coming in my office asking for an exception for Muffy because she got a DWI leaving the local college. I mean, the reality is they want the other people to be policed, and I think Robert hit the nail on the head. I mean, I was kind of hoping Michael got into that a little further, but he kind of alluded to it when he talked about a lot of the other metrics. Crime doesn't happen in a vacuum, and we know that when it comes to policing and arrests, police tend to be considerably more arrest heavy in the areas of town where they don't think the people there either have political power or have socioeconomic status or have been forgotten by the city, as is true across this country. And they arrest a lot more there than they do in the rich part of town. Let's just be straight up honest. How many times have I read a police report where the cop tells some rich kid that, go ahead and get out of here, and they're going to snuff the weed out on the ground, but on the west side of town, they're hooking that kid up every day of the week for weed. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And we don't have that kind of nuance when we have these conversations. It's really about a lot more than whether your mayor is Democratic or Republican. And it's really just dishonest. I mean, it's disingenuous because there's so many other things that determine that. And what it's about is about dog whistling. It's about saying black or non-white or brown some other way than just saying black or non-white, right, or brown. I mean, it's about all the other metrics and all the other things than saying that's not the truth. The truth is that crime is, first off, primarily committed by people against people of their own race. And secondly, the police have a completely different approach in different parts of town. And that is going to obviously correlate to the disparity in how things look. But even there, they're not honest about the data. And I'm glad that he trotted that out in the segment before.
Absolutely. And Michael, what we see here, listen, we got white execs in media, white hosts in media who don't want to actually present the data because they believe it too.
Well, yeah, not only do they believe it, but they make money off of pushing these lies, okay? So, number one, excellent work by Michael Harriot. Number two, if we look at this piece, because I've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks, there was a piece from Newsweek.com called High Crime in Republican Cities Fueled by Guns Inequality. And one of the things they talk about that oftentimes goes overlooked is that in a lot of Republican states or Republican cities, what have you, you have lower taxes in Republican areas. This may also lead to less funding for police, which helps fuel crime, but less police to catch the crime. Okay, so you have that. Another thing is, in a lot of cities that Republicans or conservatives like to say, oh, it's a Democratic city. When it comes to mayor, it's nonpartisan. So if you are a Republican who has better ideas, you can run for mayor as well in that city. Okay, some cities are different, but a lot of cities, mayor is nonpartisan. So it's also plays into this white supremacist narrative and stereotyping African Americans as having a proclivity to committing more crimes. But at the same time, you look at J.D. Vance, Junior Varsity Vance. He was just here this week in Howell, Michigan, which is known to be associated with the Ku Klux Klan. That's a whole nother conversation. But he said to Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she wasn't there, but he said, just say the word and we'll send the National Guard into Detroit. Okay? He didn't talk about the millions of dollars in community violence intervention grants that were cut nationwide, and many of that was cut here in Detroit. He didn't talk about the safer streets and safer communities, $811 million in grants that the Trump administration cut from the Biden administration that was helping bring down crime nationwide, including Detroit. So this is how many people see us. Right. So this is why we have to understand how elections have consequences, why media platforms like yours is so important, Roland.
Well, again, we know how white media works. All right, folks, got to go to break. We come back. Houston Tillerson gets a massive donation, one of the largest ever to an HBCU. We'll talk to the president next. Also, we'll talk about a vote on Capitol Hill. Why did Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries and other Democrats vote for this resolution praising the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk, but it was devoid of all the things that he said that was shameful, despicable, and racist against black people and others? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to call out those 4 CBC members who actually voted for this crap. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network, what's happening? It's your man, Kim. And look, my new single, Rock With Me, is on fire. We debuted as the #1 most added and greatest gainer at R&B radio. So look, I want you to go check it out at musicbykim.com. Listen to it, download it, tell me what you think about it. Also, make sure you sign up to be a part of my community so we can stay connected. At Music by Kim on all social media platforms. Thank you for rocking with me. And keep love on the one.
'Cause I want you to rock with me. We live in a strange world till the darkness falls forever. Baby, let's be the dawn when it feels like it's taking me over. You're making me stronger, my sweet love.
I'm Dr. Greg Carr, and coming up on The Next Black Table, we're speaking with Dr. Lucius T. Outlaw Jr., master teacher and philosopher. He takes us on his journey to discover and celebrate Black philosophy.
From my undergraduate years at Fisk all the way through my PhD, I was never in a philosophy class where I had a professor who was a person of African descent, nor assigned a text written by a person of African descent, ever.
How he pushed back at those who said there was no such thing, and got us all thinking about what it means to be Black. That's on The Next Black Table, exclusively on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking all things entrepreneurship. Whether you want to jump right in, take a leap of faith, or you've just been thinking about it for a while, we're having a one-on-one candid conversation with Dr. Tierney, our level up coach and YouTuber of the amazing Hey Sugar. So let's talk about entrepreneurship.
Before you jump out here, know that it is some work that goes into it. And not necessarily the work in the business itself, but some inner work.
That's this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
What's up, y'all? This is Wendell Haskins, a.k.a. Win Hogan at the original T-Golf Classic. And you know I watch Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, huge donation coming the way to Houston-Tillerson College in Austin, Texas. The Moody Foundation announced a $150 million donation, which matches, of course, HT's 150th anniversary. This is one of the largest donations ever given to an HBCU. And so their president has been smiling and beaming and excited since this announcement came down. And so I'm sure she is still on cloud nine as a result of this gift. Dr. Melvin Wallace joins us right now. What's up?
Hey, Roland, how are you?
I'm doing good. So tell us about this donation. How did this come about?
Oh my gosh. So it is a donation from the Moody Foundation. And of course, to celebrate our sesquicentennial, 150 years, I guess they felt that it was befitting that they matched the years of service that we have been committed to educating people in this community. So yeah, $150 million from the Moody Foundation.
Now, had you and others, had y'all been talking to them? Had y'all laid out your master plan? Was this over a period of time? Or did they just wake up and say, I think we'll get them $150 million?
Well, I don't know if anybody just wakes up and decides to drop $150 million, but, it's a testament to writing the vision and making it plain. So what we did was in 2022, when I first arrived, we started with a strategic plan called From First to Foremost. For those of you that don't know, Houston-Tillerson University is the third oldest business in the city of Austin. And in addition to that, we are the oldest institution for higher learning here in Austin, Texas. So that means we decided that we would would go from just being known as going first, being the first institution of higher learning, to going to the foremost institution in this country. So we wrote the strategic plan. We started on a master plan, and from there, really became intentional about building partnerships to help us reach the goals that we had outlined in our strategic plan and in our master plan.
Obviously, it's private. Obviously, you're there in Austin. You've got that little small school, as a Texas A&M graduate, we call it TU, Texas University, there as well. So, you know, in Austin, I mean, Houston-Tillotson obviously gets overshadowed by the hideous orange behemoth. So, yes, that's right. I'm very petty when it comes to that little school in Austin. So
I love it.
But the thing here is, when we talk about where y'all are, again, you also don't have a large black population in Austin as well. So it's a lot of things that are at a disadvantage. And so since you got there, since you arrived there, and there were a bunch of other places that wanted you to be president, but what was it about this school, and what did you see that can be built there that the Moody Foundation said, you know what, we like this vision?
Yeah, so the exciting part about it, and I tell students this all the time, when you think about, you know, what higher education means, especially to Black folk, which I am very passionate about, is, you know, you have to think of the pathway. It's not just going to college, which is great, but what's the pathway to the workforce? And so we've been very intentional. As a matter of fact, onlineu.com has ranked Houston-Tillotson University as the #1 HBCU in the country for putting students in the highest wage jobs immediately after graduation. That, to me, is the job of higher education. So as we think about what we're doing here, and again, being very intentional, it is thinking about how do you get students from freshman year to career ready, and not just going into jobs to, you know, to work in a cubicle and to have these entry level positions, but it's really, for us, we think about how we create Black wealth and how we ensure that Black and brown communities are prepared to not only go into the workforce, but to create workforce opportunities.
Your majors, what is your dominant education focus?
Yeah, so we are a small private liberal, I call it a small private boutique liberal arts college. So, and right now with AI and technology, it's in vogue, right? And being in Austin really helps. So we are the tech hub, and Austin is known as the Silicon Valley of the South. And so with that in mind, we have a lot of STEM majors, business majors, computer science. And this year alone, our graduating class, I know we had about 10 to 15 graduates who signed 6-figure contracts as their first job. One young man I was going to say his name, but I don't want y'all trying to borrow money from him. But he graduated and signed a $250,000 contract. This is his first contract straight out of college. 19-year-old kid who has never lived anywhere else besides his mama's house and the dorms here at Houston-Tillotson University. So those are the majors. And we're, again, very, very, very strategically focused on preparing our students to create the workforce, and especially integrating AI and technology. And our students are really getting into it.
When we compare, I mean, how many other HBCUs have gotten gifts this large?
This seems to be the largest gift to an HBCU, that is out there. And not just to an HBCU. I think Spelman received last year a $100 million gift, which was the largest. And I'm going to tell you the backstory to this. They originally told me that we were going to get a gift for $130 million. $130 million. So we're preparing and working with our marketing firms, and both the Moody team and the HT team, working with a joint marketing firm to help us, amplify the message. And on yesterday, Ross Moody, who is an incredible friend, and Ellie Moody, who is almost, she's like a sister to me now. They announced $150 million. And Roland, I'm going to tell you, I honestly thought that he had made a Freudian slip. I'm like, oh my God, he has accidentally said $150 million. And he looks over, if you go back to the live stream, he leans over and they're both looking at me and they're like, gotcha. And they had gone back. And even after we had, agreed upon this, they had agreed to bless us with this $130 million gift. They saw the potential and the plans and the things that we want to do and decided on their own to increase that gift even more and announce at the podium $150 million. Because if you see some of our posts, we were prepared and had scheduled posts for $130 million. And I said that was a good correction to make, that we were happy to have our marketing teams go back and correct 130 million to say $150 million. So a great, great, great day. Great.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty damn cool to get $20 million added to it.
Yes, right. I mean, I'm like, look at God. Won't he do it? He will do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask and think. And it's just a testament of the generosity of people, but it's also I believe it's their commitment to education, which is so important to them and their family. So forever grateful to Ross and Ellie Moody and to the entire Moody Foundation.
For folks, this is the announcement on the website. Houston-Tillotson University receives a historic $150 million gift from the Moody Foundation, the largest gift to a single HBCU in history. Let's go. Questions from our panel. I'll go to Matt, you first.
Well, let me first say go Rams. I think I'm the only native Austinite on this panel, Dr. Wallace. So thank you to HT for what y'all have done all these years. I spent many times up at HT before I went off to college myself. So congratulations and thank you for being the beacon of Austin, the beacon of East Austin. My question for you, though, is the Moody Foundation. This is the same Moody Foundation that gave that school up the road that my parents went to, Roland's referring to, I think $130 million to build the Moody Center back in the day. So I just kind of want to know how y'all went about getting in contact with the Moody Foundation. I think you may have mentioned this, but did they come to y'all with the donation? And how did you kind of decide what the school is going to use the money for in terms of investments? I know part of that's going to be new dorms and other things, but what are your list of priorities as it relates to this investment?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the Moody Foundation relationship is not new to Houston-Tillotson University. It is not new at all. As a matter of fact, in the 1960s, the Moody Foundation, they're the only living eponyms that we have on campus. And all of our buildings are named, like most university campuses, the building is named after someone. But they are the only living eponyms that we have with a building with their name on it. So we have the Jackson Moody Building, Humanities Building, that is here on campus. So the relationship was there. And that's a testament to saying, especially to other universities and HBCUs, thinking about where the relationships are currently and finding ways to re-engage those donors. And, Ross Moody, in all of his brilliance, just knowing about our institution and, of course, us operating in excellence every single day, decided to contact us to discuss and to discover how we might partner on something really special. And when you think about the matching, the gift and saying, okay, $130 million to UT, and then him upping the ante because he really wanted to show, and the Moody Foundation really wanted to show their commitment to this university and the commitment to this HBCU. And I will also add, just when you think about the gifts, $150 million, yeah, it's a big number for HBCUs, but in the scheme of all higher education, this is, from our research, I think we're in the top 20 or 30 universities to receive this type of gift. And when you're asking about what we plan on doing with it, part of it is for infrastructure. We can't continue to look like what we've been through. Okay. And so for us, it's building state-of-the-art student apartments for our students, as well as student scholarships. My goal is to ensure, and it aligns with the Moody's, that we can put students into the workforce with as less debt as possible. As less debt as possible. That's the goal.
Robert?
I want you to talk about this idea that you said earlier about being almost a boutique university. I love that idea of being boutique, being luxurious, being artisanal, being small batch, being almost this luxury lifestyle brand of universities. Can you kind of expand on that for people who have never heard the concept?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I appreciate about this ecosystem that we call Houston-Tillotson University is that, yes, we're located in a metropolitan city, the capital of Texas. And I look right out of my window and I see the Capitol. We're located downtown. It's a gorgeous view. And I can look at the Indeed Tower and I see all of the technology. But when you come on our campus, you feel the boutique nature of the experience that is exclusive. And it's exclusive to those who desire to have an education that is rewarding, not only while you are a student. We all know that the HBCU lifestyle is fun and it's energetic and it's amplified on social media to be this just the excitement around what HBCUs mean. But at our university, we really hone in on the family and the close-knit nature and the connectivity of what we do on our campus. And so I like to refer to it as the boutique college feel.
Michael?
Dr. Wallace, I know you said that two of the major chunks of the 150 million will go to housing and scholarships to bring down the cost of education for students. But I was also wondering, you mentioned technology a minute ago. I was wondering if you could talk about a little bit what you envision as far as investments into various departments, acquiring new technology, new labs, different things of this nature.
I appreciate that question because we like to believe that we are leading in that space. This year, we started the HBCU AI Con. The HBCU AI Conference was a brainchild of mine because I have been going and speaking at a lot of conferences about AI in higher education. And although I was going to a lot of national conferences, not a lot of people who looked like me were at these conferences. So I knew that, being in the HBCU space, we have to be at the table as we're having these discussions. So we created the HBCU AI Con, and to be quite honest, I thought it would be cool if I had 50 or 60 people that showed up to Austin, and we would have this little teensy South by Southwest experience, and we would check a box and all would be well. Well, 500 people showed up. And it was absolutely incredible. So yes, we're doing our best to keep up with the forefront of technology. But as you know, tech is changing at the speed of light. And, my belief is that in the next 2 years, this world would have advanced, technologically 30 years. And we have to be at the forefront of that. So absolutely, in this master plan, it addresses technology efforts, making sure that what we build is not being built for today, but it is being built for tomorrow and what that looks like.
All right, thank you.
Last question. We've known each other for a number of years. There were a number of used to be at Southern University in Shreveport, right? And
yes.
And a lot of so there were a number of HBCUs were wanting you to be president, and you were like, nah. You passed on several. Why did you pick Houston-Tillotson? And I'm sure your folks there, your board is trying to make sure that you stick around.
Yeah. There are a couple of things that come to mind, and I want to say this to all of those who are parents of students who are in the college choice process, as well as students who are thinking about going to college. It is, it's an entire it's an entire concept that you must consider. One is that it's in a metropolitan city. Most of our top universities, I mean, if you take, Baylor, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, these are in cities where there aren't a lot of workforce opportunities in the city itself. I mean, if you go to Ole Miss, who wants to be in Oxford, Mississippi? I mean, it's a tough town to have an internship. It's a tough city to get the experiences that, especially students who are attending an HBCU, it becomes very difficult to get those experiences outside of the classroom. So I was really drawn to the metropolitan city, especially Austin. The things that are happening here, the innovation, the technology that's happening, I felt that this institution had so much potential and had been so successful in the past that I felt like that there was a lot of opportunity to marry the partnerships that are here along with the institution so that we could truly do something special and that would be very unique and possibly something that we had not seen before in higher education.
All right, then. Well, again, huge congratulations to you and the Houston-Tillerson family. And was it a couple of years ago I was there when I spoke on campus? It was a couple of years ago. So enjoy it there. And, of course, I had been to the campus many times when I worked at the Austin American Statesman just out of college as well. So Houston-Tillerson is not new to me at all. So congrats on $150 million, and I look forward to coming back to campus.
I can't wait. We'll do it again another time when I get the next $150 million. How about that?
There you go. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, have a good day, everybody.
All right, folks, got to go to break. We come back. We're going to talk about Republicans pushing through a resolution in the House praising the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Why do so many Democrats vote for it, including Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries? Yeah, I got something to say about that. Folks, support Roland Martin Unfiltered by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to support the work that we do via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it in the bottom left-hand corner. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Back in a moment.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we talk about the principles of mindset, strategy, and execution. This week, we're adding a fourth, faith. You're going to hear from a mother and daughter duo who are helping thousands of Black women build wealth, all through their faith.
You are more than you can ever imagine. Not just obtaining things to show that, but seeing yourself.
Making your faith work for you. That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Hurricane Katrina, 20 years later. Cannot believe that it's been more than 20 years since we saw Black people and Black communities across New Orleans and the South being failed by our government. But it's a harrowing lesson. We're going to unpack how race and class intersect in ways and how we need to talk about this government doing more for our communities. Again, you're watching The Other Side of Change, only on Black Star Network.
This is Reggie Roth-Byford. You're watching
Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Well, folks, the House passed this resolution praising the life and legacy of white supremacist Charlie Kirk. He was gunned down speaking at a university in Utah. It got 310 votes, but a lot of people are saying, what the hell was going on? Because you had 58 Democrats voted no, but you had 38 that actually refused to vote as well. You see the vote totals right there. And so, again, you had 95 Democrats vote yes. Among them, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. In addition to Jeffries, you had 3 other CBC members who voted for the particular resolution. This, of course, as folks asking some serious questions, why in the hell would Democrats actually do this? Did it make any sense whatsoever. Now, I'm going to pull up right now for you the actual vote. So you see right here, this is the blue. This is the total number of people who agreed on the resolution right here. All those are red or Republicans, and you have the blue. So when you go through here, you see names: Pete Aguilar, California. You've got Judy Chu. You've got look at here, Henry Cuellar. You got Don Davis, CDC member out of North Carolina. He voted yes for this. You got Debbie Dingell voted yes as well. You got Steny Hoyer of Maryland. He voted yes. You see Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries voted yes. Also on this list, you see the likes of Ted Lieu. You see Congressman Gregory Meeks, another CBC member. He voted yes. Jared Moskowitz, Gerald Nadler, Frank Pallone. You've got Jamie Raskin. He voted yes. Pat Ryan of New York. He voted yes. David Scott, which he's in a plus 42 point Democratic district. He voted yes as well. And then when you look at the other names here, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, former head of the DNC, also voted yes. Now, if we go down here, these are the Democrats that voted no. And you see a ton of CBC members down here. At the bottom here are the people who actually, now this is the group that voted present. Alma Adams of North Carolina voted present. And then when you go you go across here, Janelle Bynum, you go right around here, you see Lloyd Doggett, you see Dwight Evans, another CBC member, Lois Franco, you see, you go right around here, Ro Khanna, Jennifer McClellan, another CBC member out of Virginia, plus 32 district. Let's see here, you see the other names right here. And then we go over here. These are the folks who did not vote. You see four Republicans did not vote. And then you see Joaquin Castro, Steve Cohen, representing black folks there in Memphis. Robert Garcia, the House Oversight Ranking member, not voting. George Latimer, Joe Nagase, a CBC member out of Colorado. Nancy Pelosi did not vote. Jan Schakowsky, Illinois, did not vote. Melody Stansbury, Eric Swalwell, Richie Torres, New York. Mark Vesey, another CBC member out of Texas. Eugene Vindman did not vote as well. Let me just put it as clear as possible. Shameful. Yes, shameful for four CBC members. First of all, it's shameful for all the Democrats who voted for this resolution. But even more shameful that House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries and Gregory Meeks voted for this. Don Davis. Now, he's in a +3 red district, but it doesn't matter. How about having some conscience? How about having some integrity when it comes to voting here? This, to me, is beyond shameful. It is utterly ridiculous because, again, you can vote against. And also David Scott. And I call out Meeks and Scott, both my frat brothers. Hakeem Jeffries, he's a Kappa. I'm going to call him out. It's different if the resolution dealt with the issue of political violence. But Republicans are treating Charlie Kirk like he was a martyr. And you can't overlook the stuff that Charlie Kirk actually said, especially about black people. And there were members who went to the floor who spoke his words before this vote taking place, including Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Today, the Republican House majority brought to the floor a resolution honoring, quote, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's assassination was a horrific and vile attack and incident of political violence. And condemning the depravity of Kirk's brutal murder is a straightforward matter, one that is especially important to help stabilize an increasingly unsafe and volatile political environment where everyday people feel more at risk. We can deeply disagree and come together as a country to denounce the horror of this killing. And it is not a license for the abuse of power and whitewashing of American history. Today's resolution only underscores the majority's recklessness by choosing to author this condemnation and honoring on a purely partisan basis, instead of uniting Congress in this tragedy with one of the many bipartisan options to condemn political violence and Kirk's murder, as we did with the late Melissa Hortman. Instead, the majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today. We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant, and accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it, unquote. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution. It is equally important that Congress does unite to reject the government's attempt to weaponize this moment into an all-out assault on free speech across the country, all in the name of Charlie Kirk. President Trump and the FCC are now cynically threatening to shut down ABC and any outlets who give airtime to the administration's political critics. This is a disgusting attack on the American people and the very First Amendment rights that define us as a country. It is also the ABC Corporation's responsibility to refuse to embolden and participate in this corruption and escalation of censorship. We continue to pray for Mr. Kirk's family and loved ones in the wake of this terrible act. I am thinking especially of his children and his wife, whose grief cannot be measured. And with that, I yield back to the gentleman.
Robert, you work for Congressman Jonathan Jackson. To me, this is a no-brainer here, voting against this. And voting no on this, it's not like Republicans say, oh, you don't care about political violence. No. But to vote for this and how it was written, and I read the entire resolution yesterday, how, oh, patriot, family man, Christian, they're trying to create a martyr. And I'm sorry, you cannot ignore the stuff, the venom that came out of his mouth.
Well, look, you have to look at how they wrote the bill. I'm going to read directly from the bill. They say, whereas this hate,
I read the whole bill yesterday. The whole thing.
I think the people need to hear you. Whereas a heinous act of violence is a sobering reminder, a growing threat of political extremism and hatred in our society. Politically motivated violence is antithetical to the principles of free republic, and the difference of opinion and debate should not be silenced. They wrote it in such a way.
I got it right here. Y'all can pull it up.
They have wrote it in such a way that they want any Democrat in a swing district to have to rest on a vote saying that they were against heinous acts of political violence being a bad thing. And Speaker Jeffries is singularly motivated. He was like a Terminator. He is singularly motivated to make sure he maintains every single seat that he has in the House and then picks one of the half dozen in order to make sure that Democrats get the majority in the 2026 election. We cannot take the risk of being painted as the BLM, anti-crime, Antifa party when you're talking about those people in the suburbs.
Got it. Here's the problem. Go to my iPad. This chart here shows you these districts, okay? Plus 39, plus 17, plus 31, plus 13, plus 35, plus 11, plus 24, plus 26, plus 16. Now, Jim Costa's plus 3.8. Henry Cuellar is a Republican plus 7.3. Don Davis is plus 3.2. But let's go right here. Plus 15, plus 13, plus 28, plus 5, plus 23. I'm looking at plus 23, plus 11, plus Steny Hoyer is plus 33. Jared Huffman is plus 45. Jeffries is plus 44. Okay? Rick Larson, plus 23. John Larson, plus 22. I'm going to go up here. Susie Lee, Republican, plus 0.7. Mike Levin, Democrat, plus 7.8. Sam Liccardo, California, plus 48.5. Ted Lieu, plus 39. Zoe Lofgren, plus 29. Stephen Lynch, plus 25. Sarah McBride, plus 14. Now, I'm skipping everybody who's under 9, okay? But Morgan McGarvey, plus 18. James McGovern, plus 20. Congressman Gregory Meeks, plus 41.8. Joseph Morrell, plus 18. Kelly Morrison, plus 21. Richard Neal, plus 13. John Olszewski, plus 18. Jimmy Panetta, plus 34. Scott Peters, plus 29. Jamie Raskin, plus 55.8. Luz Rivas, plus 34. Deborah Ross, plus 33. Bradley Schneider, plus 22. David Scott, Georgia, plus 42.4. I guarantee you they're going to use that against him when he's running for re-election. Mikey Sherrill, who's running for governor of New Jersey, plus 0.887. Adam Smith, plus 41. Then I go over here. Haley Stevens, plus 16. Lori Trahan, plus 18. Juan Vargas, plus 21. Michael, these folks have no damn excuse.
Yeah, Roland, you know, I looked at the pros and cons of this. I read the article from Reuters where Jamie Raskin was telling Democrats to avoid the trap, don't fall into the Republican trap, vote for the bill. I'm glad you read the bill yesterday. I watched your show yesterday, and I read statements from the Congressional Black Caucus members saying why they could not vote for this bill, okay? And I would have to go with them. You know, if I was, you know, I'm not an elected official, never will be, but if I was, I couldn't vote for this white nationalist bill that is going to be a national day of remembrance for Charlie Kirk, and looking at the negative things he said about black people, especially black women. We look at the professor's watch list he had that also encouraged his followers to go online and attack African-American professors like Dr. Stacey Patton, okay? So, but this is, now, even though we're calling out the Democrats who voted for these things like this, we have to remember all 215 Republicans voted for this. So we have to pay them back at the ballot box. Yes, we can hold the Democrats accountable who voted for it, but oftentimes what happens, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Roland, but oftentimes what happens, Republicans vote for bills that harm us and they pay no price. So we have to make sure that they pay a price at the ballot box when we vote them out.
But here's the thing right here, to that particular point, Matt. Go to my iPad. When Congressman Jamal Bowman put forth a resolution to condemn white supremacy after 10 black people were gunned down in a Buffalo grocery store, guess what this article says? Every Republican in the House voted against the measure, including those Republicans who are in swing districts. The point I'm making here, Matt, this is where you have to have a conscience and some guts and say, I'm sorry. If y'all don't want to reelect me, that's fine. But I'm not voting for some bullshit.
I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely, and I agree with Michael's sentiment on it. And I get the strategic question of avoiding the trap and being concerned about how things will be painted. But, you know, if you want to look at the language of that resolution further, that language of the resolution completely sanitizes what Charlie Kirk really did.
It actually says nothing. Nothing. It's oh, look at this here. Look, no, this it right here. He was a dedicated husband to his beloved wife, Erica Kirk, loving father to their daughter. That's all fine. Exemplifying the virtues of faith, fidelity, and fatherhood. Okay, that's fine. A fierce defender of the American founding and its timeless principle of life, liberty, limited government, and individual responsibility. Oh, how he got this group and they proposed this here. But this right here, I'm sorry, bullshit. He became one of the most prominent voices in America, engaging in respectful civil discourse across college campuses, media platforms, and national forums, always seeking to elevate truth, foster understanding, and strengthen the republic. How about when he also lied? But go ahead.
But that's the exact paragraph, or one of the paragraphs I was thinking of. I mean, you know, sanitizing this to say respectful civil discourse when You're saying things like a Supreme Court justice doesn't have the requisite cognitive power. Black women don't have the requisite, brain power to be in certain positions. That is not per se respectful discourse. What I think they have done is a good job of conflating the way somebody said something or the tone that he used or the perceived calmness with, quote, respect. He was not a respectful person. The discourse was abhorrent. And that if it were coming out of a black person's mouth and it were trained at white people, they would call him every manner of racist and hateful and whatever. But because his ideology dovetails with the party in power and the party that is trying to leverage this tragic killing, they're going to, make it sound, lionize him, basically. They're lionizing him. And I think the problem with this is one, ceremonial. Two, it's not truly substantive. And three, when you look at the language, it is legitimizing people who use this kind of language and this kind of vitriol by making them martyrs. And that's the problem. I think there's a difference between saying we've got a First Amendment right, free speech, all of those things. I could not agree more, forcefully. But I think we also have to be able to say, if you are saying abhorrent things about people in society, you may have a freedom of speech, but you don't have a freedom of consequence. And one of those consequences is we may say that you are a hateful, vitriolic person. These things logically follow. And I think when you vote for a resolution like this, you are legitimizing the respectful discourse of a person who says abhorrent, disrespectful, mongrelizing things about large groups of people and who feeds into things like the Great Replacement theory. That is per se not respectful. And I think when you vote for something like this, you're legitimizing it in a way you absolutely should not be willing to legitimize.
And here's what Republicans are doing. Go to my iPad. New bill filed in Oklahoma that says every public university, I need y'all to listen to me, every public university in the state must have a Charlie Kirk Memorial Plaza with a statue of Kirk and his family. It gets worse. The Oklahoma proposed the bill to public universities promptly build these Charlie Kirk Memorial Plazas, saying he was, quote, a voice of a generation, modern civil rights leader, vocal Christian, martyr for truth and faith, and free speech advocate, or be fined. I said everyone. That means Langston University, Robert, will be required to have a Charlie Kirk Plaza. And the Democrats who voted for this now give them cover by saying, well, wait a minute, your House Democratic leader, your former whip, Steny Hoyer, they voted for this resolution praising the life and work of Charlie Kirk.
Look, we have to look at the bigger picture on this. We have to remember that we're going to be in a tooth and nail fight next year trying to take back the House of Representatives. And even if your district is safe, you have to look at the six of your brother and figure out whether or not this will be painted in such a way that makes it look like Democrats are in favor of political violence, when we know good and well that these issues are taking place across the board. We have to deal with gun violence. We have to deal with the mental health crisis. But when we take these ceremonial votes and make this the hill that we are going to die on, we risk the real substantive issues such as Medicare, SNAP, housing, all
Robert,
those things are in danger.
No. What Democrats risk by not taking a stand is for their own people not voting. The most fundamental problem they have right now, it's all in the polling. People don't believe that they're fighters. They don't believe that they stand for anything. The reality is the House Freedom Caucus will shut that whole shit down to stand on principle. And the problem is Democrats made the calculations. Listen, all we heard from Chuck Schumer, oh no, we can't change the rules when it comes to nominations, because if we change the rules and the Republicans get power, they're going to do the same thing. So you know what Democrats didn't do? They didn't change the rules. You know what Republicans just did last week? They changed the goddamn rules. Say they just voted the other day on 48 Trump nominees. So the Republicans don't give a shit about norms. All they care about is power. And I'm simply saying is, when are Democrats going to show some fucking guts? And this vote was gutless. And it was gutless for Hakeem Jeffries to vote for it and to whip his members to vote for it. Now, if what you just said, if Jeffries said, hey, here's the deal. Anybody who's in a district that's 10 points or less blue and is red, guess what? Y'all go ahead and vote for it. But the rest of y'all, we ain't voting for this shit. That ain't what he did.
Look, You have to look at what we're trying to do. And we risk this in what happened in 2020 and 2024. They were able to paint Democrats as being the anti-police, defund the police, all these issues, and it lost in the suburbs, it's lost in the margins, it's lost in those areas.
No. They lost, Robert, with some sorry-ass candidates because there were other people who were in the same suburban districts who also won, who were better candidates. Ocasio-Cortez made that particular point. Matt, the problem they have is they're gonna need their base coming out hard in the election. And if you doing stuff and you telling your base it's sort of blasé, who the hell gonna swing for you?
And I actually agree with you 1,000%, Roland. I don't detract from that point at all, because I think here the Democrats should have chosen, those who voted should have chosen the stronger path. I get Robert's concern. I understand it conceptually from a strategic standpoint, but I think the problem is this. Number one, it's not like you're going to curry favor with the people who aren't going to vote Democrat anyway by voting for this resolution, number one. Number two, it's a ceremonial resolution that's not substantive. You're not talking about funding anything. You're talking about lionizing a person who said abhorrent things and who is being lionized for saying abhorrent things because its quote is indicative of the freedom of speech. I don't think they had to do that. I think they could have issued a resolution or issued a statement separately that says we condemn political violence, but not also voted for this resolution. And I understand that the wording made people concerned. I understand I'm not in a political office, so, I get how you can have those concerns strategically. But I think this was a perfect time to show the exact kind of fight that particularly young people, I feel like, across the nation are saying the Democrats don't have. When the Democrats have an opportunity to show that they have a backbone, they do this. They vote for this resolution, which doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it legitimized, in my opinion, horrible rhetoric under the guise of it being respectful discourse. And I think there's another path, which is you issue a statement that says we soundly condemn political violence, and then you don't vote for this or you vote against this. And then I think you accomplish both goals. And even if you get painted as being whatever, socialist, far right or far left, voting for political violence, then you have a statement against that. But it's not like they're going to show you love anyway, voting for this resolution. I don't think that you needed to do this. And I think it showed a lack of backbone, to be frank.
And here's the whole deal, Michael. Congressman Mark Vesey actually had an alternative resolution that specifically spoke to political violence, that left all the rest of that crap out. And if you were Democrat and you this is what you say, I would have voted for this. This is what my colleague put forth. It has every single thing in there, talking about political violence, but it did not have all the rest of that crap. That's how I would respond to somebody who would say, how dare you vote against this resolution for Charlie Kirk? I would have said, I would have voted for this one, but Republicans wouldn't let it happen.
Absolutely. A few things. So I totally understand the bigger picture that Robert is focused on. Okay. I totally understand that. But at the very same time, January 6th, a lot of the people who voted, Republicans who voted for this resolution, voted not to convict Trump in the House when they had the impeachment. Okay. Number one, for January 6th. Number two, a lot of them supported the January 6th insurrectionists. That was political violence. So you can, on the one hand, in this resolution, denounce political violence when you supported it with the January 6th insurrection and you supported Trump giving a pardon to 1,500 of the insurrectionists. This is a bullshit resolution, okay? So Democrats, and 95 Democrats voted for this, okay? I posted about this on my Facebook fan pages, and a lot of black people were saying, all of the CBC should have voted no on this, and they were giving hell to the Democrats who voted for this resolution. And this, once again, contributes to the narrative that Democrats, many of them are weak and don't fight. Okay, so all of them should have voted no on this, and then say, hey, Mark Vesey's resolution will go, this is what we wanted, and you can't, and they need to hang around the neck of Republicans. You can't, on the one hand, say that you are against political violence, but you supported January 6th.
And what has to happen now, what has to happen right now is, Jeffries, every damn time there's a school shooting, resolution. Every time. And force Republicans to say no. Force them to say, I'm not going to bring it to the floor. But voting for this bullshit is trash. That's what it is. I'm going to a break. I'll come back. I got to deal with this fool. It's a lot, y'all. Nany Mace showed her ass talking to Muriel Bowser this week. We're going to show that. I got to show y'all. We can talk about Ezra Klein and Ben Shapiro. And also, last Friday was the 4th anniversary of me slapping the shit out of Christie on ABC This Week. They ain't invited me back ever since. And we show it every year as a reminder that I wasn't lying what I had to say. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Dr. Greg Carr, and coming up on The Next Black Table, we're speaking with Dr. Lucius T. Outlaw Jr., master teacher and philosopher. He takes us on his journey to discover and celebrate Black philosophy.
From my undergraduate years at Fisk all the way through my PhD, I was never in a philosophy class where I had a professor who was a person of African descent, nor a sign of text written by a person of African descent, ever.
How he pushed back at those who said there was no such thing and got us all thinking about what it means to be Black. That's on The Next Black Table, exclusively on the Black Star Network.
Hey, yo, what's up? This is Mr. Dalvin right here. What's up? This is KC. Sitting here representing the JODECI, that's Jodeci, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Officials from Washington, D.C. were on Capitol Hill this week dealing with the issue of funding, and of course, they had to get raked over the coals by Republicans. One of the most heinous, despicable persons in Congress is Nany Mace of South Carolina. And man, was she rude, disrespectful, and gross when she was talking with Muriel Bowser. Watch this.
All right, Chair recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. The government of the District of Columbia, under the leadership sitting in front of us today, has become a poster child for DEI and gender madness. This has led to government. Mr. Chairman, this is not a concert. This audience can just settle down.
Stop the clock, and the gentlelady's right. Under the rules of the House, the chairman is responsible for maintaining order and preserving decorum in the committee room. I expect audience members to be respectful of the committee, so
I'd like to reclaim my time, too,
Mr.
Chairman.
Absolutely.
This has led to government-sanctioned racial discrimination and the erasure of women. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 provides Congress plenary authority over the District of Columbia. Using this authority today, I'll be introducing the No DEI in D.C. Act. This bill will rip the DEI and gender bender nonsense out of the D.C. government root and branch and restore common sense and equal treatment under the law. As the individuals charged with writing D.C. laws, signing D.C. laws, and enforcing D.C.'s laws, we have some questions for you on the meanings of some of the curious terms we have found in the D.C. Code. My first question for Mayor Bowser, it's yes or no. The D.C. Code makes numerous references to, quote, structural or institutional racism. Do you believe the D.C. government is structurally or institutionally racist? Yes or no? Yes or no? Is D.C. government racist, institutionally racist? Yes or no? All right, you can't answer the question. So my next question for Mayor Bowser, since you're going to sit there and placate or just be quiet, in Section 7-1234.02 of D.C. Code, you use the phrase child welfare involved birthing people. Child welfare involved birthing people. Can you explain to me what this means?
I'm not that familiar with that part of the code.
Okay, and so you don't know. In Section 7-1234.02 of D.C. Code, you use the phrase justice involved incarcerated and homeless birthing people and their non-birthing partners. Can you explain to this committee what that means?
I would have to see the whole section.
You don't know. You're literally the mayor of D.C. and you don't know your own code of laws.
Well, I don't know.
All right, one thing we noticed the D.C. Code struggles to define is the term woman. So Mayor Bowser, what is a woman?
I'm a woman. Are you a woman?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
I'm a woman. You're looking at one.
Okay, good. You actually, in Section 3-703 of the D.C. Code, you use the phrase, the intersectionality of gender and race to create unique dynamics and effects. Can you explain what this means to the committee?
Where is that, ma'am?
Section 3-703 of the DC Code. Do you know what that means? No, you don't know what that means. So Chapter 14D of the DC Code establishes the commission.
I'm happy to answer questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reclaim my time. This is not her time, it's my time. You can be quiet as I ask you questions, and then you can answer them. And then you can answer them. I'm not, Mr. Chairman, this is my time, not hers. I'd like to reclaim my time.
Let's make good use of the time, Ms. Mace.
I'm making very good use of my time. And you're making my point. You're the mayor of D.C., and you don't even know your own code of laws. What is a birthing person?
I would assume it's someone who gives birth.
All right. Why don't you use, are these women, are these moms? You think it's appropriate to call them birthing person? Can a man birth a person?
Well, that's what I would call it, but I don't write all the laws, and I'm not familiar with every section.
Can men get pregnant?
No.
Can men become women?
Can a man become a woman?
Yeah. Can a man become a woman?
Miss
yes
Mace,
or no? Can a man become a woman? Yes or no?
Miss Mace, I'm not here to talk about that.
Okay, my next question, Chapter 14D of the DC Code establishes the Commission on Reparations and a reparations fund to provide eligible African Americans monetary reparations or other forms of redress. Is it the position of DC government benefits should be provided to individuals on the basis of race?
I believe that the legislation requires a study.
Okay, I'm asking you, is it the position of the DC government that government benefits should be provided on the basis of race?
If you're referring to that legislation, I believe it requires a study.
Okay, I'm asking you a question. Do you believe that government benefits should be given out on the basis of race? That is the question. This is the third time I'm asking.
We have any number of benefits programs, and eligibility is established.
You're not answering any of these questions. I'll give it to you. You're slick. In Section 2-1383 of the DC Code, you use the phrase social value of the LGBTQ community business economy to the district. Can you explain what this means to the committee?
It means that LGBT businesses provide economic benefit to the district's economy.
Do you think all businesses provide economic benefit to the DC economy?
They should, or they would be out of business.
Yeah, of course. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you. Chair recognizes.
That heifer make my ass itch. I cannot stand. You know her ignorant ass running for governor of South Carolina. Governor of South Carolina. Oh, I can't stand her trifling ass. Go ahead.
But look, that's exactly the point. She's running for governor of South Carolina. Those are her local politics. I remind people, there are only 3 million transgender people in the entire country. They are 1% of the population. The way conservatives talk about it, you would think there's one hopping out of every corner and in every phone booth. There's an obsession with it because that plays well with their Christian conservative base. And what she was fishing for was to get a clip of Muriel Bowser saying something that she could run in her campaign for governor. And it could go viral on Newsmax and in 4chan and those places. You got to play the game. And that's what Muriel Bowser did.
And here's the game. If I'm Muriel Bowser, this is me for 5 minutes of Nany Mace. I ain't saying a damn thing, Matt. I ain't giving her nothing. I ain't giving her nothing. Or, listen. Or I'm going to roll up like Cash Patel. I ain't giving her ass nothing. Nothing. Nada.
So I have two immediate thoughts about this. The first being that it's interesting that she started out talking about DEI. My understanding from little research I've done is that she was the first woman ever to graduate from the Corps of Cadets at the Citadel. But what she doesn't have on her house website is the fact that her father was literally running the Citadel at the time she graduated from the school. Why is that important? Because if she were a black woman, they would be talking about nepotism, how she didn't earn it, how her magna cum laude wasn't ever earned because her father was actually the person who was running the Citadel when she graduated. But she didn't talk about that. She just talks about DEI. Because the second point that I have to make is that I think we're in a part of society right now, or time in society, where our politicians are way too much about pageantry. This is about pageantry, and this is obviously about vitriol. Nany Mace is running for governor. She wants the sound bites, but that's all it's about. And if I'm you, I'm doing exactly what you say Muriel Bowser should have done, especially because she wasn't asking questions to get answers. This is like when I'm in a cross-examination and I want to beat up on somebody and I want to make a jury think that I'm in control and that they're whatever I want them to look like. This is not about getting actual answers to the questions. And I think part of that is because we, as a populace, have gotten used to the political pageantry where it's about sound bites and it's not about substance.
Yep.
Here's the other thing. The mayor doesn't write the laws. I mean, now, I don't know exactly how D.C.'s, mayoral council power structure is set up. But in a lot of places, right, the city council is the legislative body, of course. They're the ones who ratify the laws, and the mayor is, depending on where you are, either the chief executive or really the main point of that city council. To think that that person is going to know every law in the books in their area is just really an absurd idea, especially when you're cherry picking and picking out little parts of things without greater context. And this is all about pageantry. It's not about any substance. And we see Nany Mace is apparently trying to make her name because that's what she's doing, running roughshod anytime she gets an opportunity. And I don't think that Mayor Bowser should have countenanced any, or rather accepted any of that, or, been involved in any way, because it's all BS. It's not about getting real answers.
Now, that was another back and forth on the Capitol Hill, this time with Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and it also involved a member of the HELP, Congressman Byron.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Tlaib from Michigan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really important. I mean, we're talking about, 700,000 people that live here, and I feel like their voice gets completely just dismissed. And so, if I may, Mr. Chair, ask unanimous consent to enter the record. The Washington Post poll of D.C. residents found 8 out of 8 in 10 opposed Trump's taking over of their local police and sending in federal troops.
Without objection to ordered.
I think it's also really important to understand, like, the incredible kind of slanderous, like, defamation. I don't know what to call it. They're just burying Washington, D.C. You just heard them speak about our nation's capital in that way, in a way that I feel very much like that's not what I see. I see people walking around with their families, people enjoying regards to it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in D.C., home rule was won out of Black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights, we can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say like so personally as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in D.C. and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady yield?
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair, but you all live here, and you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane if the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues. We were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line. Regular order, Mr. Way out of line. Regular order. That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free DC and make sure you vote with your own voting card.
Got a little heated there. Got a little heated there between Rashida and MAGA, the HELP, Byron. Again, and here's the whole deal. I know some people say, oh man, she went there. Guess what? When she runs in the primary, she wallops the folk who run against her. So all I'm saying is, There are people out there who do want to see Democrats bring wood, who want to take it to them. That's what they want to do. So I'm just saying, if y'all want folk to turn out in huge numbers, you're going to have to sit here and learn to jack some folk up. Now, speaking of jacking some folk up, Ben Shapiro, right-wing ideologue, is running around some new book. I don't give a shit about it, so therefore, I know the name of it, because I really don't care. So he sat down with Stephen A. Smith. He's gone on The Breakfast Club. I think he was on The View. And they know better. They knew better. They ain't sent us the book, because I would never book his ass. So he decides to go sit with Ezra Klein with the New York Times. And this is what I call one of those genteel NPR type conversations. And it's about an hour, it's an hour plus conversation, but somebody had posted about like a couple of minutes of the interview, and I was so pissed off. I said, well, let me go back to this section. So it's about a 10-minute section I pulled that I just had to play, because if y'all want to see gaslighting and some absolute lying take place, watch this.
I think I'm pushing you a little bit into something more fundamental here.
No, but I think that they're connected.
This is where it becomes the fight over Western civilization, because I would say during this period you have, when you're talking about Barack Obama with his sort of, micro-targeted polling or whatever it is, it's like you have the birther smear emergent on the right,
again, I think
in a very potent way. So, right, Obama creates reaction as well, just by nature of who he is.
Well, I don't think it's just as easy as that. I mean, for people who don't, kind of live on the right and imbibe from the media of the right during this time, the understanding on the right was that Barack Obama was a much more divisive figure than the left and the traditional media like to say that he was. And they saw him as a fundamental transformative change agent who did not see the American experiment in a positive light. And they felt, the right, and I sort of agree with this, that he was dissimulating, that he was dissembling, that when he was saying that all the sort of positive, sunny, optimistic vision of America, that what he actually meant was the Cairo speech, where America was sort of a sinner in the Middle East, and that his view of American history was much more along the lines of what he said about Henry Louis Gates or Trayvon Martin than it was along the lines of there's no white America and black America, there's just Americans. And so the reaction of the right was, okay, this is an interest group-based politics that does not particularly like the founding. And
Stop. So basically what Ben Shapiro is saying is President Barack Obama, unlike all the white men who came before him, did not tell his story. They did not tell the his story. Obama didn't fall for the his story. Obama actually talked about the history of the country. And so when Shapiro says the right, this sunny view, what he's really saying is, oh, see, the white men before Obama, they left all the bad shit out. So they didn't bring up slavery. They didn't bring up Jim Crow. They didn't bring up systemic racism. They didn't bring up redlining. But this Negro comes along, and why he got to keep bringing that stuff up? That's really what Shapiro is saying, and white conservatives, they don't like that. They don't like Paul Harvey, who was Rush Limbaugh back in his day, if you want to be honest. He used to always say, and now the rest of the story. They don't like the rest of the story. They like that fake lying-ass story. And so here's Shapiro saying, yeah, we couldn't stand the fact that this black guy would actually stand up and acknowledge the racist shit we did as a country, including the crap that we did in the Middle East. See, y'all gotta understand, every time we talk about Iran, these white folks always go to 1979. They overthrew our embassy, but they never want to talk about 1953, when we, on behalf of Anglo-Iranian Oil, now known as BP, literally overthrew a Democratic elected government, and Mossadegh was a leader, because it was over oil. The Iranians used to love the United States, but after the overthrow in 53, they hated the United States. And we can go country after country after country, but see again, Shapiro, these white people don't want somebody talking about that. That's why they couldn't stand Obama press play.
They're going to react to that with Trumpism.
So if you understand Obama and Biden more from the left, What are the moments in those presidencies that the people on the right are radicalizing, right? That sort of differ from how differently you see them from maybe how I do?
Well, I think that for President Obama, I think the left perceives the Obamacare moment as the moment that the right sort of radicalized. And I don't think that that's actually right. I think the bitter clingers comments were a big one. That was in the 2008 election. I think the Henry Louis Gates statements.
Recently, Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. was arrested at his home in Cambridge. What does that incident say to you, and what does it say about race relations in America?
In which he suggested that the officer had acted stupidly and then sort of linked that with racial discrimination in the past.
He just lied, and they're going to play the video, and Ezra Klein doesn't stop him from lying. Press play.
I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. And number three, what I think we know separate and apart from this incident is that there is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately. And that's just a fact.
The Trayvon Martin situation was quite polar.
Okay, so I called this out in real time when I was on CNN and other places, and white people didn't want to confront this. So let me tell you what they did. Sean Hannity, the conservative people, Obama calls the cops stupid. No, he didn't. I remember being on CNN saying, no, complete the sentence. They played it. See, this is where Ezra Klein pisses me off. Because, see, he doesn't stop Shapiro. He allows Shapiro to go with the lie, and it goes uncorrected. Shapiro says it was the issue when Obama said the cops acted stupidly. Then they played the clip. What does the clip say? Obama says the cops acted stupidly, pause, in arresting Gates after it was determined it was his house. Obama never called the cops stupid. He said it was stupid for you to arrest the man after it was determined it was his house. But that conservative media didn't do that. I remember this like it was yesterday. Hannity was foaming at the mouth, and Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly and all of them were just going at the mouth. And you know what happened? I'm going to give y'all some inside stuff, okay? So after this news conference, the white boys around Obama were like, we got to walk this back. We got to walk this back. And so then that was a meeting. Now, let me help y'all out. There are two staff meetings at the White House. There's the 7 a.m. meeting, and there's the 8 a.m. meeting. Now, the 7 a.m. meeting is the real meeting, okay? Okay? That's where the principals are. So what happened was the white boys in the 7 o'clock were like, we got to walk this back. So when it got to the 8 o'clock meeting, the black people were like, no, hell no, we ain't walking shit back. It was a serious argument. I'm telling y'all what I know, okay? So it was an argument back and forth. And the black folks were like, there have been times when I walked out of this White House and I couldn't get a cab. So the white boys, Emmanuel, Axelrod and the others, they go into the Oval Office and tell Obama, hey, we got to sit here and we got to walk this back. He was like, man, we ain't walking. He said, no, we're not. Get out of my office. Yep, told him got the office. So then the white boys start gathering around, man, we got to figure out. So they start calling certain reporters saying, if Obama could, if he wish he could take that back. So I remember sitting on the set, and then one of the reporters at CNN said, I'm like, that's not true. I said, he don't want to walk that back? Well, Roland, my sources. I was like, well, I got sources too. See, I knew what the real deal was. So they put that out, that thing, conservative media, white conservative media, for a whole week. And the only reason there was a beer summit, because Obama was like, we got to shut this shit down. So let me invite the white cop and Skip Gates to this bullshit, have a beer in the Rose Garden so everybody can shut the hell up. That's what it was all about. But it was white people like Ben Shapiro who lied, who took half of what Obama said and ran with it by saying Obama calls the cops stupid. Y'all can Google it right now. You're going to see all these stories when he was very specific. When he said, no, they acted stupidly in arresting Gates after it was determined it was his house. And then they got mad. How dare he bring up systemic racism? How dare he bring up black people who get stopped? What's wrong with him? And then he said, even I got stopped. Ooh, the white folks couldn't handle that. Because see, now they're mad that you actually got a person who's black, who's in the Oval Office, who's the president of the United States, who's telling you even what I endured, and the white folks couldn't stand that because you know what they like? They like they nice, neatly pressed Negroes quiet. Press play.
Rising for sure.
But my main message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
The Ferguson riots, those I think would be sort of the biggest examples of...
The right was so upset. How dare they? How dare Obama say what actually took place? Then let me also give y'all some more insight on what actually happened right there. See, the White House was really trying to ignore this story. First of all, national media was trying to ignore this story. And I remember people were hitting me on social media about Trayvon Martin. And I kept seeing on my timeline, and I was flying to California to speak to the 100 black men of Orange County. And then that's when I was then talking to some other people, and I really got the gist of the story. And so all of a sudden, I was talking to Brother Dotson, who was the president, saying, "Hey, we got to focus on this." And so then, from that point on, was really focusing on it. So me and others were driving us on social media. National media was ignoring it, seeing it wasn't trying to cover it. All of a sudden, the story bubbling. Then all of a sudden, it begins to blow up. Now, it was a Friday. And I remember doing that. That's when all these preachers are going to be doing hoodies up on this in pulpits on Sunday. I did a segment on Tom Joyner Morning Show discussing this. And I remember calling Valerie Jarrett, and I was like, "Yo, y'all about to get left behind on this story." I said, "Because this is going to blow up this weekend. There were vigils being planned, the hoodie up stuff." And she's like, "Well, you know, Obama doesn't really want to get involved because federal investigation." I'm like, "No, he's going to have to say something." And she was like, "You think?" I said, "I'm telling you. Y'all about to have a problem on y'all hands if y'all don't say nothing." So what then happens is, all of a sudden, give me a call back. "Hey, watch the news conference. He's going to get the question." Boom, he gets the question. Now, we all know, happens all the time, y'all. Happens all the time, okay? So Democrat, Republican, bottom line is, you know, media asks questions. So he got the question, and you got to understand, he was another announcement. He was about to walk away. The question came, and he came back and answered the question, okay? But that's what pissed the white folks off. Pissed the white folks off, how dare he said it could be Trayvon Martin? Well, shit, let's see. He black, Michelle black, so yeah. But see, the Shapiros of the world, and we're going to play it for you, because see, in their mind, how dare you say that? Because see, they never wanted to acknowledge that Trayvon Martin was literally minding his own damn business, was on the phone with this girl after going to the store on NBA All-Star Sunday, minding his own business when this white Latino Zimmerman decides to accost him. Because see, y'all gotta understand, white people like Ben Shapiro, they actually believe that they have the right to walk up to Matt, to Michael, to Robert, or me, and we gotta be like, we some Negroes in South Africa. Show me your papers. Okay, boss, here are our papers. That's how they operate. And so that's what happened to Trayvon Martin. So white people, white conservatives were angry. How dare he bring these things up? How dare he talk about these things? Because see, they actually believe that they have the right to ask of any black person, who are you and what are you doing here? That's why we got all these Karens running around. Oh, do you live here? Show me your address. We play the videos where they sit here and say, yes, show me your address. Prove to me you live here. Well, you prove to me you live here. So what Shapiro is really saying, and he don't want to say it, and Ezra Klein, weak ass, now pressing him, like, wait a minute, hold up. So y'all really were pissed off at Obama because y'all couldn't stand the fact that he actually stood up for righteousness when black folks are being negatively impacted? Press play.
Barack Obama kind of setting off the right, so to speak.
It's interesting you choose those. I mean, those are mostly first rhetorical examples. It's like, take the bitter clingers comment, because I actually think about this one a lot, right, where he gets caught on this, he's on tape.
You go to some of these small towns in Pennsylvania, a lot of small towns in the Midwest. The jobs have been gone now for 25 years and nothing's replaced it. And they've gone through the Clinton administration and the Bush administration, and each successive administration has said that somehow these communities are going to regenerate, and they have not. So it's not surprising then that they get better and they cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or anti-immigrant sentiment, or anti-trade sentiment, and a way to explain their frustrations.
It's like, to me, if you compare that to things that get said, even say to Hillary Clinton's deplorables comment, right? He basically says, look, you have people in towns that these towns have lost everything. They've lost their jobs. They've lost the plants that employed everybody, that they have been, like, their fundamental dignity and livelihoods have been taken away from them. And yeah, in that condition, people get bitter. And then he does say, like, they cling to guns and religion, which I think he wishes he didn't.
And xenophobia, right?
And xenophobia. It's actually very different than
you're such an empath, Ezra. I mean, the way that the right reads that is him sneering at those people, meaning if they only weren't xenophobic and religious and hollowed out by life, then they would totally buy into what I'm selling them. And I think that this also meshes very well with what the right tends to think.
He's saying that we have failed them, right? That they wouldn't just buy into what he's selling them. He's saying that, like, the left has, like, abandoned these people.
Right, but I will not fail these people. And if I were given the power, then I would fix all of their problems. And really, if they only understood how much I could fix their problems, then and what's keeping them from doing that, the reason they won't embrace me, it's what I would say is this is the mirror image of how the left viewed what Mitt Romney was saying about the 47% of people who would never vote for him. So people on the right read that like, okay, there's a bunch of people who aren't paying taxes. They're unlikely to vote for a person who's going to lower taxes. And people on the left read that as he's sneering at people who are not paying taxes. And so I think that there is that element here.
It's also the other couple of examples you give are interesting for just being about race, right? And again,
the racial issue here, yes,
like.
Again, the polling data here is very, very clear. Racial relations in this country got markedly worse in 2013, 2014, 2015.
But is that because Barack Obama should have been more positive on what happened to Trayvon Martin or what happened in a very different way to Henry Louis Gates, or because it was hard for people to hear, like, yeah, if you're a black man and you see these, your interpretation is, yeah, like, we get hassled by the cops often for no reason in a way that white people don't really understand. Or my son could have been Trayvon, right?
You know, when Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. And when you think about why, in the African-American community at least, there's a lot of pain around what happened here, I think it's important to recognize that the African-American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away. You know, there are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me.
I understand that as also an expression of pain, right? An effort to try to, like, build a bridge. It's very hard for me to imagine and Donald Trump doing the Henry Louis Gates, the beer summit, as it got called, where you had the cop and Gates to the White House at the same time. It's hard for me when I look back on that and the beer summit in particular to hear, like, that's what radicalized you all?
Yes, and the reason is because the implicit promise of Barack Obama was the worst conflict in the history of America, which is the racial history of the United States, which is truly horrifying. That in his person, he was basically going to be the capstone of the great movement toward Martin Luther King's dream. And when instead things seem to move in the opposite direction, which was, well, you know, it turns out that black people in America, they're inherently victimized by a system, by a white supremacist system that puts black people underfoot. And my son could have been Trayvon. And people on the right saw that as like, well, but that's not true. You are an upper class black man who is living in the White House. And unless your son was mistaken for a prowler going around at night in a neighborhood, then no, that actually wouldn't happen to your son. In fact, you have 2 black daughters, and that stuff has never happened to them. So the sort of Michael Brown in Ferguson, the idea that when the president went out and he said that people wouldn't just make this up.
Freeze. Okay, so here's what I want you to understand here. Because he went over, and again, Klein didn't stop him. Again, a shameful way to interview. What Shapiro is saying is, well, we thought when we elected a Negro, we would do all this stuff. It'd be poof, gone away. So let's see. Correct me if I'm wrong. When Thurgood Marshall was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Lyndon Baines Johnson, did racism in the criminal justice system just go away? No. When we got our first black mayor of a major city, Hatcher in Gary, Indiana, and Stokes in Cleveland, and Coleman Young in Detroit, and Maynard Jackson in Atlanta, and Marion Barry in D.C., did racism and inequality just poof, go away because the magical Negroes showed up? When we got our first black Fortune 500 CEO, did all of a sudden there no racism, no discrimination, none of those things in corporate America because the magical Negro has arrived. And so therefore, now that he is here, it absolves us of all of our past and present and future sins because he has now arrived. That's literally what Shapiro was saying. So when he said, oh, this would have been a capstone, what he's really saying is we actually thought that when America finally elected a black person as president, you Negroes were going to shut up. You Negroes were going to stop complaining. You Negroes were going to stop demanding more. Damn it, we allowed one of you to become the holder of the highest office in the land, and y'all have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to keep complaining and demanding things. Why won't y'all just shut the fuck up? That's literally what Ben Shapiro is saying. And then he goes, and oh my God, but no, that's not what happened. So all of a sudden he comes there and then we're like, oh damn, they're still complaining. And Ezra Klein sits there and just lets that bullshit just continue and just go on and on and on. Finish that crap. Audio!
Interpretation of Obama, at least to you, was that if he is elected, we'll agree we've gotten past all this. Like, it's supposed to make us feel better. Well, and then when it didn't, like, that was understood as the betrayal of a promise.
Well, I mean, again, that is how I think most Americans saw it, including black Americans. That was a widespread sentiment, not just among white Americans, among black Americans, is that something had gone radically wrong in 2013, 2014. So something happened. And this was an argument that was made by legacy media a lot, which was that the real reason people were so exercised about Obamacare wasn't because they really cared about Obamacare. Right? It was really because there were a lot of bitter clingers out there who, you know, were clinging to their God and their guns and their xenophobia, and they didn't really like the black president. And if a white president pushed Obamacare, then probably they probably had some problems with it, but they wouldn't have gone crazy like this. I mean, these people. I mean,
I can tell you there's actually, you're saying there's evidence on this. Like, there was a lot of polling on this, on how attitudes on race correlated with attitudes about Obamacare.
I mean, that may be the case, but the point is that the perception by people who are not actually picking on Barack Obama because of his race, but were picking on him because of his politics, was that suddenly everything was being refracted through a racial lens.
Yeah, it was being seen through a racial lens because it was. There's no mistake here. There's no shock what happened. The basis of my book, White Fear, was a poll that was taken in 2009 around the inauguration. And the question was asked, are you optimistic about the future of America for your children? Black people, Latinos, Asian Americans, a majority said yes. Less than a majority said no. Who was that? White America. Huh. I saw that and went, something's up here. And I began to look at other data. And that's when I came to the conclusion, we are about to embark on the beginning of white minority resistance. It's the thesis of my book. Hey, Ezra Klein, maybe your ass should call me if you really want to have this conversation. But see, they don't want to have this conversation. The networks didn't want to book me to have the conversation. Do you know why? Because they would have to confront the reality. And so what Ben Shapiro is doing is trying to gloss over the reality that President Barack Obama's presence all of a sudden freaked white people out. And when he said that, that Trump was a reaction to Obama, he's right. Why? Because the history of America, we know for a fact that white backlash always followed black success. So this is no shock here. But Ezra Klein is not deep enough to understand this because as a white man, he can't fathom these things. Black people, when he goes, but black people were believing the exact same thing. Black people aren't dumb. There were hordes of educated black people who were like, Ro, we can't ask for nothing. We can't ask for nothing because if we ask for something, then white folks ain't gonna vote for Obama for the second term, so we gotta be quiet. Black people are not dumb, we're quite smart. We know white people well. And black people knew there was going to be a racial reckoning. Do you know who were the people who were talking about a post-racial America? White people. White media. I was on CNN looking at Wolf and all of them like, y'all goddamn mind with this post-racial bullshit. Because if you're black and you know how to read and you understand history, you knew what was coming. And it came after Reconstruction. It came after black towns were being built. It came after black schools were opened. It has happened. It came after the Civil Rights Movement. It came after the election of the black mayors in the 1970s with Reagan in the 1980s. We have seen this movie over and over and over again. And so what pisses me off about this section of this interview is that Ezra Klein literally has no depth or knowledge to break down what Shapiro said, and he just allowed him to float bullshit, and it was unanswered, it wasn't challenged, and if you are watching this, you would go, oh my, this was a rather revealing conversation. Yes, it revealed the racist points of view, no matter how well-dressed and well-spoken out of Ben Shapiro's mouth, and it showed the lack of understanding of a white progressive like Ezra Klein. Robert, your thoughts?
Look, I think, one, for the people who are why didn't Obama do more when he was president? Just looking back at that looks almost like it was CGI. It doesn't even seem like it was real looking back at the Obama presidency compared to what we have now. The immense amount of pressure that was on him to not make a single misstep, to not say one word out of line because of the, as Barry Goldwater called it in 1968, white lash that we all knew would come at the smallest tip of a hat. And we're living in that white lash right now. We're living in this post-Obama America where white America is saying that not only was it Obama, it was diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And now I have a black female who's my manager and I have to go to HR training twice a quarter. Now all of a sudden, all the movies, there's a black Little Mermaid swimming around, and my daughter can't feel empowered knowing there's always going to be a little white princess to represent her. All of a sudden, you're seeing the tenor of America, not just is it black people getting new rights, not just is it women getting new rights. Now you have to hear about LGBTQ that you've never heard of before, and those people that Obama talked about who have been, quote unquote, left behind by the American dream, whose factory jobs have been shipped overseas, and no matter how many tariffs you put on manufacturing, they're never going to come back. Those people who the education system has failed and they don't see a way out of the area that they come from. I tell people all the time, my mom and my sister hate this, grew up in Waverly Hall, Georgia, which is a small town about 45 minutes from the middle of nowhere. We lived in a double-wide trailer, and we lived around that part of America. We saw that. We saw the hopelessness. And when we go back now, those same people are still there. And when they see somebody who looks different from there, they can't believe that they did it from merit, and they think that the system was helping them along the way. And this is why we're seeing this fierce backlash we're seeing right now. So the point is that everything that Ezra Klein was doing was letting Ben Shapiro explain that to the American public. You can't get that without letting him just have a narrative, just letting him put it out there. We couldn't break down what Ben Shapiro was saying unless we heard him out for the first time, realizing that most of these black MAGAs that you see right now were field soldiers for Obama in 2008. And Shapiro explaining how they were radicalized to the point that they are out here representing white supremacists now.
The thing that I find to be just so interesting here, Matt, is, and we've heard all this stuff before. I mean, what Ben Shapiro is saying ain't nothing new. I mean, literally, as he was talking, again, I remember being on the air fighting this shit 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, these white Confederates and all this sort of nonsense. And see, and the reality is they couldn't say the N-word. But remember what Lee Atwater said. He said, we know, and it's on record, it was recorded. He's like, we no longer have to use the N-word. It's other stuff that we can use. And that's what was happening. And so they love to say, oh, no. We weren't targeting Obama because he was black. The reality is there were white people in this country who were believing that, oh my God, we're gonna lose stuff. He's gonna just give stuff away to the blacks. And it was all sort of stuff. It's in the data. It's in the polling data. So when they go, when this idiot and Megyn Kelly goes, oh my God, Obama came along and race relations just went to hell. Hello. Maybe it was the mere presence of the black guy that kind of pissed some people off.
That's what it was, and that's why they talk about it the way that they do. And I think the reality of it is this. I don't think most people had any illusion that racial issues were going to go away by the election of Mr. Obama. I think what white people thought, particularly racist white people, particularly hardcore conservative racist white people, is they thought that the election of Barack Obama took away his ability to address anything racial. I mean, just the idea that Ben Shapiro was talking about, oh, you're upper middle class, you're in the White House, you're, accomplished, right? That's exactly the kind of rhetoric you heard around this country all the time when Mr. Obama was elected, because then it became, you are the cream of the crop by what we call to be American metrics, and therefore, the fact that you are there means that there can't be institutional racism. It means that black men can't be being targeted by the police. It means that black people can't be dying disproportionately at the hands of the police, because your election is supposed to be proof positive that those issues don't exist. And we all know that that isn't true. And I think part and parcel with that is a lot of the frustration with Obama was this idea that he no longer had license to speak to issues that he should have to speak to as the president of the United States. Now, the fact that he's a black man, which rankled a lot of people in general, I mean, let's be frank, exacerbates that. But the president of the United States is supposed to serve everyone in the country, right? And should be addressing topics du jour, major issues. So the idea that a black president can't address black issues because he's black is problematic. But I think that there are a lot of people who thought his election took away his ability to do that. And more than that, I think the better example of the fact that it was just the color of Obama's skin is how vitriolic all of the pushback against policy was. I mean, with Trump, you have somebody who is going out daily, making incendiary comments and purposely sequestering parts of the population. But that wasn't coming out of the Obama White House. What was coming out of the Obama White House was policy. And if you remember how they talked about that policy, I mean, it was dripping with the same kind of seething hate that they talk about other things, right? They would act like Obama was just the spawn of Satan because they've introduced Obamacare. And that is because he was a black man and for no other reason. And because he's a talisman of that exact life that he's talking about with the bitter clingers. The people in American society who are forgotten, largely white people, the largely white people on welfare, they see him as a talisman of the life that they've had stolen from them by virtue of the existence of people like him. So when he gets in the White House, he's not allowed to talk about black issues. That's what I saw then, and that's what I think Ben Shapiro is speaking to now.
See, the thing here, Michael, and this has been white America since the beginning. So folks go, oh, no, I'm not racist. And see, people understand is this is not a conservative versus progressive conversation. Because there are white progressives who think and act the same way. So in their minds, no, I'm not racist. I'm not bigoted. I don't have any. So I tell people all the time. See, the biggest problem we have is we say racist, not racist. I said that ain't the issue. Right. It's all that stuff in between. It's that space in between. It's the assumptions. It's the microaggressions. All those things that we can spot it so easy. It's crazy. And so that was what was happening here. And so what you had is, how dare he address these issues? How dare he talk on these things? How dare he even speak on these things? How dare he talk about the inequities in housing and venture capitalism? Why can't you just be a happy Negro that you're in the Oval Office and just shut up, be quiet for 4 years, then 8 years, and then move along? That's really what they wanted. So what Ben Shapiro is really saying, oh no, as Robert said, it wasn't policy that ticked us off. It was that Obama had the audacity to stand up there and call us out in a very smart, articulate, clear, defined way. And we're pissed off that he did. He should have been on the side of Zimmerman. He should have been on the side of that white cop who was talking to Skip Gates. He should have been on the side of the people who discriminate in housing. And how dare one of the first things that he does is sign a law after the Congress passed that attacked racial discrimination in auto lending. And what was one of the very first bills Republicans overturned when Trump got in? That particular bill. That says all you need to know.
Yeah, so I'm glad you showed that that interview. So a few things. Number one, I remember when Obama was elected, and then all of a sudden you had white commentators, white Republican commentators, conservative commentators saying, okay, this is a post-racial America now. This is post-racial, which really meant they didn't want to hear anything else about racism. They didn't want to hear about racism, structural inequities, anything, because now you have a black president and all that's gone away. Okay, when Ben Shapiro talked about white people thinking that electing Obama, this would be, or they thought that Obama would try to fulfill Dr. King's dreams, right? When you talk about quote unquote the dream, part of the dream was dismantling white supremacy and racism in this country. Okay, the beloved community is what happens after you dismantle white supremacy and racism. And when he talked about, when Obama talked about Trayvon Martin, and then he talked about African-American men being followed around or disproportionately stopped by police. See, now you're talking about systemic racism, okay? You got the black man in the White House talking about systemic racism. White people did not want to hear about that. And Charlie Kirk said systemic racism doesn't exist. So just Obama's presence as a black man who understood history, who talked about that periodically, was a threat. And it was an insult to many white people. And Donald Trump was that white backlash that we always see to any periods of progress that African Americans make. And this is another backlash that we're seeing right now of Donald Trump with the Helper Project 2025.
A couple of things, and I know I'm over time, but trust me, I'm already telling my publicist, send this to Ezra Klein. You want to have a conversation, Ezra? Yeah, let's talk about this here. Because that Shapiro, that was some bullshit, pure and simple. Before I go to the Christie thing, somebody just posted this in the group chat. And we know Donald Trump ain't got no respect for black women. So this took place in the Oval Office today when my girl, Ebony McMorris, the White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Network, actually asked a question of Trump, and he showed his ass like he always does in chastising black women. Listen, watch this.
Mr. President, and we're going to be going in quiet. You're really obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I'm trying to ask you, what about your plans for
really
Memphis?
Obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I am asking, what are your plans for Memphis? Many people want
I'm not going to talk to you until I call on you.
What are your plans for Memphis?
Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to sell this free speech question, because you've said that you restored free speech in America.
Yeah.
Is that free speech including for people who are harshly critical of you, for your political opponents, for people who say things you don't like?
I've become immune to it.
Unfairly?
I've become immune to it. There's never been a person that's had more unfair publicity than me, and that's why your network paid me $15 million, or $16 million, I believe, to be exact, George Slopadopoulos, and that's why CBS paid me a lot of money, too. And that's why I sued the New York Times 2 days ago for a lot of money. Because I'm winning. I mean, I'm winning the cases. And the reason I'm winning is because you're guilty, John. You're guilty. ABC is a terrible network, a very unfair network, and you should be ashamed of yourself. NBC is equally bad. I don't know who's worse. I think they're equally bad. And, you know, for you to stand there and act.
All right, so he's spending his rest of the time trashing ABC. But right there, Michael, that's how... First of all, Donald Trump can't call nobody obnoxious because he's the most obnoxious, abhorrent, despicable, disgraceful individual to ever occupy the Oval Office, and that includes the racist Woodrow Wilson.
Yes, and he has a hatred of black women as well, especially intelligent black women. We just saw that display right there. We see how he treats Yamiche Alcindor as well, another excellent journalist. We remember him being disrespectful to April Ryan, also White House correspondent.
April Ryan, Yamiche Alcindor, Rachel Scott. I mean, we can Cecilia Vega. We can go on. If you a woman of color, he gonna treat you like crap.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
absolutely, because that's who he is. Okay, that we have to be clear on this. That's who he is, and that's one of the reasons why I think, you know, he gravitated towards Charlie Kirk so much. It wasn't just the fact that Charlie Kirk helped him win the, you know, the conservative youth vote, things like that with Turning Point USA. No, they had a lot of the same ideologies also.
Bottom line here, Matt, yeah, he don't like being questioned. And she's at, look, it's an open deal. I get to ask a question. But this is also where the other White House correspondents, y'all need to have somebody back and follow up on their question.
Absolutely. And this is exactly what we saw earlier with Nany Mace. I mean, it's with Trump, it is a complete disregard for, you know, decorum and respect for people. And I think we focus way too much on that. I think what him and his team have done masterfully, if you want to be honest, over the years, is they have brought down the level of equilibrium so low that the president of the White House can sit there and yell down a reporter. I mean, that would be, if Obama had done it, that would be, you know, cause for all kinds of Congress censuring him, trying to do whatever else. But with this is standard fare for Trump, and it's because he hates black people, he hates women, and he very, very clearly, you know, treats reporters this way and has many times. So none of this is surprising, but this is exactly what we were talking about. This is the person occupying the White House and what we expect and what we see on a daily basis coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania.
He is shameful. He is uncouth, Robert.
Look, for every a white guy who has to sit through another meeting with an overqualified black woman talking down to him because he doesn't quite understand that the program that she's been an expert in for 20 years outweighs the internship and his dad getting him that job, this is catnip for them. These are the people that Ben Shapiro was talking to. These are those suburban voters who otherwise they believe in and many of the things that the left believes in, but because of exactly that idea of strength, of disrespect, of white men being back in the Mad Men world of the 1950s or the 1980s. If you close your eyes, that would sound like a scene out of a civil rights movie. Of a black woman asking questions about the situation in Memphis while being disrespected by Bull Connor behind the desk. That is what they gravitate to. And so when you think about the political dance that people have to take, when you think about, like we said earlier, the political dance that Obama had to go through to get those same white people to vote for him, while we were voting for him thinking he was going to be our liberator, they were voting for him thinking that he was going to be our conqueror, that he was going to be the one to tell us to finally bow down and shut up. So when you see that, you have to think about the bigger context, which is that you still have half of America that see that and they believe in that and they're excited by it.
Absolutely. Now, I love how when you speak truth, how other folk all of a sudden get religion later on. So y'all, it was September 12th, 2021 when I went on ABC This Week. And I didn't pick the subjects, and they decided to talk about Christie's speech at the Reagan Library. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I'll be honest with y'all. So we went in commercial break, and the sister who was on there, she turned to George and she said, "Are we really gonna talk about this speech?" And George says, "Yeah." Now, I'm a guest. Now, she was a paid contributor at the time. Chris is a paid contributor. Sarah Escort, I think her name, whatever her name was, she's a paid contributor. So I was the only one up there not getting paid. So I wasn't saying nothing. But inside, I was like, ooh, bring that speech up. Ooh, please bring that speech up. Because I was ready to tag that ass. And I did. Now, let me tell y'all what happened. Christie walked off that set so mad, so pissed off, man. He went and this was an ambush. 3 executives told me this afterwards, okay? I ran to one of the NABJ, was like, yeah, we just thought, we like more collegial conversation. We thought that was just too much heat. I said, heat? Baby, on a scale of 1 to 10, that was a 4. That wasn't no heat. Now, what's funny is, everything I said in that segment, Christie has been saying ever since. So who was right? Oh, and by the way, I ain't been back on ABC This Week. Not when Stephanopoulos is hosting, not when Jonathan Karl is hosting, not when Martha Raddatz is hosting, because I guess, you know, that was just, I wasn't being respectful. I wasn't bowing down to Lil Christie. Well, he ain't Lil, but I was not bowing down to Christie. So I made the point, we gonna run this every single year as a reminder of me lighting that ass up. And I was right. Did y'all, and I want y'all to roll it. Y'all roll it from the beginning? You got the whole segment? Roll it.
Christie, he was referring, of course, to former President Trump, also went to a police station in New York yesterday, complained again about the rigged election. You gave a major speech at the Reagan Library this week where you said it was time to face the realities of the 2020 election, renounce the conspiracy theorists and the truth deniers. So you're on a collision course with former President Trump.
No, I'm on a course to try to make sure that my party remains rather relevant in the political conversation in this country.
Maybe it becomes. You're seeing more and more Republicans are now saying they're buying in to the conspiracy theorists.
In the end, I do think that it's moving in the other direction. I think it'll continue to move in the other direction. And what that speech was all about was to repeat what I said with you on election night. You know, at 2:30 a.m. on election night, when the president made the speech that he made, President Trump made the speech that he made, I said it was unfounded and that there was no evidence of anything like what he was talking about, and he needed to stop. And I've consistently said that since then.
It's taken hold among Republicans.
It's taken hold among some Republicans, George. But I think what you're seeing over the course of time as this continues to move past election night and the emotion of an election is that more and more people are saying that that's not true. And by the way, it's also incumbent upon all of us in the party who don't believe it's true to speak out. Because you're not going to convince everybody overnight. The same way we're having the conversation about vaccines, and you're not going to convince certain people of certain things. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with friends of mine who are smart, good people who aren't vaccinated.
So are you getting blowback?
I mean, listen, a little bit, but much more praise than blowback for the speech. And so, but in the end, that's not why I gave the speech, to either get praise or worry about blowback. You say what you believe. That's what I try to do here every week when I'm on. And I said what I believed on Thursday night, and it's what I'm going to continue to believe.
I just think for 4 years, we watch Republicans either be silent or be complicit in the building of the monster that is Trump. And even post-Trump, there are still Republicans who are bolstering him, supporting him. So I feel like too little, too late. The reality is real leadership is stepping up to the man at the time he was in the seat and saying that we won't budge. And there was none of that. And unfortunately, I don't know what the future of the Republican Party is. There's so many folks who are now swinging closely. We think about the 47 states that have legislation trying to keep people from voting based on the big lie that we know was not true. We think about January 6th and the insurrection that happened on the structure of democracy itself and democracy. And there are Republicans who don't want to have an investigation into that. So this Republican Party is way far gone. And unfortunately, too little, too late.
Hold on. I want to get another Republican perspective here from Sarah Isgur. You know, there's seeing debate there. Chris believes the party's over time moving in this direction. Yvette disagrees.
I think that
perhaps we will finally see what we didn't get to see in 2016, where there were 17 candidates, nobody dropped out so that you could have the one-on-one versus Donald Trump. Perhaps it looks like Donald Trump is going to run again. We're certainly told that by all of his advisors and by all accounts from him. If it is Chris Christie versus Donald Trump in the Republican primary, Republicans will have a choice. And certainly Donald Trump is in some ways at his weakest that he's been since he left the White House, and in other ways, certainly what he has said and Trumpism has picked up within the party. It will be up to Governor Christie to make the case that there is somewhere else to go. But I do think if Trump runs, he may be alone in that lane, and that could be helpful.
I'm sorry, Republican Party, they made their choice.
Yes.
And I appreciate the speech, Governor, but the reality is this. You have to admit, Sarah, you have to admit the role that you played in putting the person in leadership who is driving conspiracy theories. It's one thing to condemn them after the fact, but you have to own up to the role that you played in putting the person in power. The time
we both ran campaigns against
No.
First off, I don't have to admit, First off, I don't admit anything to you.
Can I finish?
First off, I don't admit to you. And second, I ran against Donald Trump in 2016.
You also coached him for the debate, sir.
You ran against, here's the deal, you ran against him. But when a person has principles, morals, and values, they do not support them even if you lose.
Right.
And what they say is, I choose patriotism and the country over party and power. And the problem was too many Republicans chose power in riding with Donald Trump as opposed to patriotism and America.
I'll sleep fine tonight with you judging my morals.
Well, guess what? As a voter, as a voter who has 13 nieces and nephews, what I also want to see in America are Republicans and Democrats who have the guts to stand up to narcissists, to folks who lie, to folks who sit here and lead a country in the wrong direction. And what that man has unleashed on this country, any Republican who stood with him has to own it and accept the role that they played.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'll accept the role that I played in the 2016 election running against him, and I'll accept the role...
Let him finish his point now. Let him finish his point.
And I'll accept the role that I played in my belief that Hillary Clinton was not the right person to be president. We all get to make choices, Roland, in this democracy. I made my choice. I'm on record of my choice, and I'm not walking away from my choice. But it does not preclude me from being able to be critical when the person that I did support does things that I am against. And so this false choice that you're trying to set up...
Is that false?
It's a false choice, and one that the American people are not going to buy either.
Roland, let me just press one other point. Right now, I would argue that the fact that so many Americans can't buy into simple facts is probably the biggest existential threat we face to our democracy. So when somebody speaks up for that, isn't it something to be praised?
Facts are critically important. But again, when you support someone who said fake news, when you were truthful and then pushed that, then when you have the networks and the conservative radio talk show hosts, that whole echo chamber driving that's the problem. I am a native of Texas who is still registered there, and I am dealing with Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick, who is consistently lying and making things up, and you're dealing with that. I'm dealing with people who are changing textbooks, well, here's the deal. I have a very basic principle since I've been a journalist. If you do good, I'll talk about you. If you do bad, I'll talk about you. At the end of the day, I'll talk about you. And somebody has to say what others are afraid to say.
Sarah, you get the last word.
If you want to persuade the half the country that voted for Donald Trump in 2016 to move to your side, then you've got to stop villainizing them. You've got to stop having these conversations where everyone who is not with you is against you. And when someone says that Donald Trump did something wrong, you may want to consider praising that and trying to use that to persuade the people who are not going to be persuaded by what
that is going to have to be the last word. This debate could obviously continue. I'm sure it will in coming weeks.
Nah, we didn't have it in coming weeks because they ain't invited me back since. But here's the reality, and I'm going to start with you, Matt, on that whole thing right there. And this is the thing that, to me, that is so laughable, even when I look back at that 4 years ago. Chris Christie helped Donald Trump prepare for the 2020 debates. Chris Christie was endorsing him. Chris Christie wanted him to beat Biden. So after 4 years of all that lying and all that nonsense, he was still hoping he was going to win 4 more years. So now after he loses, then January 6th, don't try to come now with the Ronald Reagan speech. Now, I wasn't buying that nonsense.
I mean, you're right. See, also, J.D. Vance is in the White House, and wasn't he one of the most vocal never-Trumpers?
Yep.
You know, look, I mean, and then here's the thing. Sarah Isker, her point is one that really infuriated me because this is exactly what you see people do. You see them move the goalpost, right? It doesn't become like, okay, let's address the fact that you not only aided and abetted, especially Chris Christie will understand that being a former U.S. attorney, you aided and abetted this man who's now in the White House, who you're now decrying, or at that point he was out, but who you're now decrying, and you have to address that. And the second thing about that is people have to be able to look at the value or the facts of a platform. It's not a matter of whether they're being, quote, villainized or not villainized. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. Make your vote based on the substance, not on whether somebody's villainizing you. And I hate that point because that kind of sanitizing is exactly what we see. Oh, well, people aren't going to want to vote if you make them feel bad about themselves. Well, I'm not going to lie to them so they feel good about themselves. I got to speak the truth to power. And when you do that, people naturally don't like it. And that's exactly what you saw in that segment. And Chris Christie, you know, a speech does not cure your aiding and abetting.
And the thing here, Michael, and this is my problem with the folks at ABC. Oh, that was just too heated. Hell, that wasn't even remotely heated. But see, they don't want that type of grilling on the Sunday morning news shows, because those Sunday morning news shows, it's all nice and wonderful, and let's go laugh in the green room, let's pat each other on the back. No, I'm sorry. You got to speak truth when you're talking to the American people, and the reality is that's what I was doing. And listen, I ain't been back there in 4 years. Morning Joe ain't invited me back since 2015, because I'm not about to sit here and play a little cute-ass little game and make you feel comfortable. I wasn't praising that damn speech after what Chris Christie did. And hell, to make matters worse, he did all that ass kissing of Trump in 2016, and Jared Kushner got him booted off as the leader of Trump's transition team, and he was still standing there with him. I'm like, man, that man dogged you in your face, talked about your weight, just embarrassed you, left, and you was still riding with him for 2020? Man, come on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. So I remember I watched it when it aired live, okay, Roland, when you were on this week. I watched it when it aired live. But, yeah, so keep in mind the backstory is Chris Christie, when he was U.S. attorney, prosecuted Jared Kushner's father, okay, sent Jared Kushner's father to prison. This is why there was that animosity between Kushner and Chris Christie, which is why Christie never got a position in the White House, okay? And then, yes, he helped. Then after all the humiliation, after all the fat jokes that Trump made about Christie in 2016 when Christie ran for president against Trump, or walked for president, one of them, then he goes and helps Trump prepare to debate Biden also, okay? You know, in 2020. So it's just ridiculous. It's just capitulating, you know, once again. But these Republicans are cowards.
Well, but this also, though, Robert, it speaks to weakness in media. And so, no, we're not going to call you back. Now, mind you, that clip there went viral for 72 hours, actually for the whole week. The right-wing media research center thought they was trying to dog me by posting the clip. So that sucker hit 1 million in 48 hours. And I'm sitting here like, really? Like, y'all mad? No, that's the fact that ABC This Week has not called me one time in 4 years shows you how mainstream media operates when they don't want real, independent truth tellers on these shows.
And why you think you don't see me on Fox no more? It's because this is exactly
now, Fox had a whole file on me. They wouldn't call me. They were like, dawg, that Negro there,
But look, this is exactly the point that when we're talking about these things in media, which is there's an alternate universe. You know how every movie now has a multiverse? And then there's like the timeline. You go down the darkest timeline to the apocalypse. That's the one we're on. We're on the bad timeline. And there's an alternate timeline where people listened to you back then, and we went on the command Kamala Harris' first term, we're building windmills and solar panels everywhere right now, instead of dealing with tanks in the streets and the rolling back of every single right we can think of. And I think we talked about Chairman Meeks earlier. I think people don't realize what House Republicans have been pulling with this the funding the government bill. They locked the Congress in for 36 straight hours this week. 36 straight hours to hammer through in the dead of the night the most draconian cuts, the most concentrating of power into an authoritative way. And Chairman Meeks on the House Foreign Relations Committee fearlessly led Democrats. He held them together, because just like you saw today, it's hard to hold Democrats together in a caucus or in a group. He held them together to oppose every single amendment the Republicans were putting forth in the House Foreign Relations Committee. And it's so important for people to understand that this is a fight for the nation's very soul. And if we had listened to you back then to draw that contrast, that's the big issue, the contrast. People thought, well, if Kamala is here and Trump is here, they about the same, so I might well go with the guy who's cool and hanging out with the rock stars or something. We have to draw that contrast so people really understand the type of takeover of the government that is taking place right now, right under our chins. And by the time we figure out, look, think about it this way. When you get a rental car, you don't put rims on it. If you get an Airbnb, you don't get custom cabinets in the kitchen. If you plan on leaving somewhere, you don't start customizing it. You don't build a $200 million ballroom. You don't get a $400 million bribe jet from Qatar. You don't start decorating the train station in D.C. to make it better for your friends to come party and go to dinner. People are in an existential threat for America, and we have to understand that truth tellers like you are what's important right now.
And what happens is, again, by calling them out, they have to own up to, like Sarah, she went to go work for Jeff Sessions in the Department of Justice. They have to own up to, they legitimize Trump. They have to own it. And I ain't gonna never let them forget that they allowed that man to come into power. And that's just the facts, whether they like it or not. So ABC this week, y'all can call a brother, but it's all good though. That's why I got my own show. Cause see, I'm not waiting for somebody to call me to come talk. We can talk here 5 days a week, because I own it. And unlike Jimmy Kimmel, I can only put myself off the air. Robert, Matt, Michael, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Yes, Matt, I'm petty. Folks, the reason why you should support Roland Martin Unfiltered, the reason y'all watch it on YouTube, y'all should be hitting that like button. We should be at 2,000 likes easy. The reason we do what we do, y'all, with this show and other shows with Black Star Network, because we're not waiting on mainstream media to give us permission to talk. We're not hoping they call us back. We're not hoping they call us once every 3, 4, 5, 6 months to come do a 1 hour show on Sunday morning. No, we are here 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. We are here with our weekly shows. We're launching 2 new shows. We're launching a Black News Portal. We ain't waiting. We ain't asking permission. What does that mural say in one of my offices here? Freedom's Journal, March 16, 1827, third paragraph. We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. That's the mantra of the Black press, and that's how we roll here as well. But your support is critical, because guess what? We ain't getting Disney money. We ain't getting ABC money, all right? We're not bringing in billions of dollars. We don't have billionaires and millionaires cutting us checks every single month supporting this show. The support of our supporters is critically important. I sat there and mobile deposited about 75 checks today. And you know what it was a bunch? It was a bunch of $5, $10, $15, $17, $20, $25, $30. That was an $18 check. There were several that were 100. There were a bunch that were 50. But every dollar is critically important, because we are not interested, y'all, in hoping they call us, waiting for them to call us. No. On this show, next week, we're going to have Congressman Jim Clyburn. We're going to have Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. We're going to have Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland. We're going to have more CBC members on this show next week than you're going to see on CNN or MSNBC for a whole month. You're going to see, you don't see, hey, that Houston Tillerson $150 billion, you don't see MSNBC and CNN and Fox News and ABC, NBC, and CBS calling the president. You don't see it. Y'all, The support is critically important for what we're building. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. You can also use that QR code for credit card applications, bottom left-hand corner. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Okay, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available on bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible. Folks, if y'all want to get a Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag, such as this shirt right here, don't blame me. I voted for the black woman right here. Y'all want this shirt right here? Boom, I got the QR code. Now, this is not on the website, but I got to add the QR code put on the back as well. Y'all want to get this shirt, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. You got our other shirts there as well. Black-owned media matters. How you died does not redeem how you live. That was that quote from Pastor Howard John Wesley in the sermon the other day, and so y'all can go there as well. All these black-owned products you see right here, y'all, these are on our website as well. You can get all these products. You see them right here. And so we got backpacks, we got shirts, we got, oh my God, all kinds of stuff. We got sauces, you name it, we got it all right here. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to support these black-owned businesses. And also support the black-owned app, Fanbase. That's right, Fanbase. Folks, listen. The right wing is buying all this social media. We need to have our own. You got Fanbase right here. You got video, live video. You got live streaming. You got video. You got audio rooms. You can post photos. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can also have people subscribe to your content and get paid via Fanbase. And so download the app Fanbase. And also, if you want to invest in Fanbase, they've raised $13.1 million. The goal is to raise $17 million as a part of their effort. And so go to startengine.com/Fanbase. Startengine.com/Fanbase. Folks, we got some great guests for you next week. Next week is CBCF ALC 2025. We got some book authors coming in, CBC members. There's a lot going on. Y'all, this is the only network that has a daily news show that centers African Americans. Nobody else is doing this, linear or on digital. Support Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. I'll see you guys on Monday. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Cincinnati at the STEMI Awards. I hosted this before. It's a fantastic awards program for folks who are in science, technology, engineering, math, STEAM. Sunday, Indianapolis. I'm going to be speaking. One second. Oh, that's a flight. That's that. That's that. At the second annual Gala. So look forward to that. Monday, I'll be live from Dallas. Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman Klein has her celebrity golf tournament. I'm going to be there supporting her foundation. I'll be broadcasting live from Dallas on Monday. Folks, y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you. We always end the show on Friday with all of our donors. Here you go. Holla!